Marriage is something I'm going to talk about for several weeks in this series. And here's what I want you to do. I do not want you to disengage if you are a teenager. I do not want you to disengage if you are single. And I definitely do not want you to disengage if you've been divorced and it's been a tough time and you're just kind of on a rebuilding path. I'm telling you that this isn't just for people that are in love and marriage and happily ever after and from this day forward that everything's going smooth. This is for everyone. I promise you that my goal is not to preach for just a select group of people, but we can benefit every one of us from this. I know that for me, I wish that my parents would have had something like this. To be a part of the local church and to know that the local church is willing to speak about things that is such a challenge in our culture. And culturally, I believe that marriage is being attacked pretty heavily. From the busyness of schedule to the time that if we make an investment to it, it makes us feel selfish. But if we go different directions, that we're just kind of running the rat race and hoping that good things happen. And so as we start this series, In the Ring, you make a commitment that you're going to listen and apply and watch God bring the increase and the fruit produced from it because of the effort that you have put forward. And God's going to meet you there. And it's going to be an incredible time for us together. Romans chapter 12, verse 2, and then in James chapter 1, verse 19 and 20, we're going to talk from there. We're going to start in the New Living Translation and then go to the NIV for the second part of it. I will reference Ephesians 5 throughout this series because I think it's such a powerful statement that Paul makes, and we'll look a little more next week at that. I know that when it comes in the scope and sequence of these things, that this is a part of every one of our lives at some point or another. So you have this pattern that is set in place for how you find the one you're going to spend the rest of your life with. You have jingles that roll through your mind and you kind of wonder, how am I going to find the one? And you watch some commercials and you don't have to be lonely. You know, those things just kind of stick out in your mind and things that you go, how am I going to find them? And here's how I'm going to help all of us today. In Romans 12:2, it says, don't copy the behaviors and the customs of this world, but let God transform you into a new person by changing the way you think. Then you will learn how to know God's will for your life, which is good and pleasing and perfect. So if the world has a way, another part of Scripture says that there's a way that seems right to man, but it still leads to death. There's a thought process that we put into finding the one. This is the way the world does it. It says you find the right person. Well, how many of you know that the representation of that individual isn't always the first perception that you receive? That when you go out trying to find the one, they may put a good front on. As you're trying to find the one, and then all of a sudden you say, I do, and it changes. You wake up and be like, well, I do not know who this person is, but they was nice before we got married. And now they're mad all the time. What changed? So we start trying to find the right person. And once we find them, we fall in love. See, first we find them, then second we fall in love. But I want you to understand that there's only two places in the whole word where the term fall in love is used, and one is with Samson and the other one is with Tamar. And if you look those stories up, you'll see how detrimental when you think you fall in love. See, love isn't something you fall in and out of. You ever heard those saying, I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore? No. See, what you learn is love is not an emotion only. It is a choice. It is a value. It is something you say, hey, I choose to love you with all of your little bitty quirks and the big ones too. You have this opportunity, this decision to make. And then what the world will say is you find the right person, you fall in love, and then you fix all your hopes and dreams on them. How many of you know that if you put people on a platform that only God deserves, that they will let you down every time? And when you're allowing your future and your destiny to be in the hands of someone who is not perfect. See, in a childish way, in immaturity, we can think back to our teenage years or in a relationship. Maybe it's the first time that you've ever been in love, or what we define as love. And that's got to breathe on the phone for 8 hours, talking about nothing, because you spent all day together. You're like, hey, what you doing? Nothing. It's 2:30 in the morning, but I don't want to get off the phone because I may miss one of your sweet little breaths, and we deserve to talk to you. And I got to go to work tomorrow. Who needs work? But we got each other. Did you hear that? My heart skipped a beat. I didn't just hear it. I felt it, baby girl. Then comes all the cheesy things. I love you. No, I love you. I love you more. No, I love you. Hang up. No, you hang up. As if that defines what love's going to be forever. I mean, you proved you loved them because the picture's on your dash. Covering up your fuel gauge. Before cars dinged and reminded you was about to be walking. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say I needed gas. I was in love. And start thinking about all the different things that come along. And then all of a sudden, you're together for a little bit and then they decide they don't like you anymore. But the problem is they've made you feel loved, they've made you feel beautiful, and they've made you feel confident. And then whenever they walk out of your life, you're left feeling unloved, you have no confidence, and you feel like if you could change and just become what they want. But that's not the way God designed it. And so the world has this pattern. They say, hey, look, find the right person, then fall in love, then set all your hopes and dreams and affections on them. Then what happens if it messes up? Repeat the process. Start looking again. As if that we're going to find someone that's going to complete us. But God's way says you don't look for the right person, you become the right person. Like, well, I'll hear guys say, Pastor, I want a wife. Well, become desirable. What do you mean? I need to shower more? I don't know. Some ladies don't care if you shower that much. That's them. I'm talking about becoming the right person. Like, become a man of God. Become the right person. Don't just go around looking for the right one because you're looking out. Instead of looking this way, Lord, I'll become. You would be amazed at how the Holy Spirit can speak to another individual about you. How different is that? Whenever they roll over and look at you and be like, God, what did I do? And he'd be like, I told you to marry them. Like, oh yeah. It's a little bit different. And then you don't fall in love, you walk in love. You walk in love. And you learn that love is a walking out duty every day. You'd be like, well, I'm not in love anymore. I love them. I care if they get run over by a Mack truck, but I'm not in love with them. But what do you mean you're not in love with them? You're just mad at them. They did something to hurt you. But when you walk in love, you don't hold a record of wrongs. You learn what grace and humility and all those things. Does that make sense? When you become the one and you walk in love, not fall in love, it's not a fleeting emotion. See, some of you today, you're listening to this and you're like, Pastor, I've done this, and they walked out. Can I tell you that you're going to be okay? You're going to be okay even when the deepest betrayal and disloyalty has happened in your life. If you will focus on Jesus Christ, He will rebuild you and put you back together again. Do not repeat the steps of dysfunction that got you in the first place. Just be honorable and be like, well, they didn't. You can't control what other people do. All you can do is be faithful even when it doesn't feel good. Then you fix all your hopes and dreams on God. And what if that doesn't work? And a failure occurs, then you repeat steps 1, 2, and 3. And you will have a lot better chance when you learn how to seek God. When we learn how to seek God and we learn how to fight fair and we make a commitment to never give up. Now that can be dangerous because as a couple, when you say we make a commitment to never give up, whenever they say, I don't like you anymore, I'm like, that's all right because I don't like you either, but we ain't never going to give up. Remember, we made that commitment. You stuck with me, honey child. Look, marriage is not supposed to be survival, okay? Forever is a long time in survival mode. It's meant to thrive. Is there anybody in here that's been married for longer than 5 years that has never had an argument? 4 years. 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. How about a month? 2? Most of the time, you've had some good arguments going into this thing. Like, it's so funny to me when I do premarital counseling. Have you guys had an argument? No, we really don't argue. I'm like, they trying to impress the preacher. You know how I know? Because the masterful question of, baby, where would you like to eat has been asked before. And the response says, I don't care, you pick it. Cool, let's go eat pizza. I don't want pizza. Let's go eat a sandwich. I don't want a sandwich. Well, here, you pick it. No, you pick it. I really don't care. What are you talking about? I'm trying here. And you're trying to be nice. Like, oh, no, really, I want to be. It's like, all right, Chinese buffet. No, I can't stand Chinese buffet. Well, just pick it because this ain't selective, baby. I go to McDonald's and get a milkshake and be happy. You don't know. I am not picky. So if you got a thought, Just let me know and I'll drive to that. Narrow it down a little bit. Because I promise you, I'm happy. I can find something to eat no matter where I go. This has learned to survive. Okay? I'm not very selective. I go into places, if they got, it doesn't, I'll eat some honey roasted peanuts. I'll pack some in a bag if I don't like what they got. I can figure it out. But you ask that question, it's like a fight that breaks. Well, you said we could go here, and why can't we? You don't ever understand what I'm saying. I think I understood what you were saying. That's why I'm confused. You said you pick it, you don't want it. And then your whole afternoon's ruined because now there's a communication problem. And and you're hungry. Now you went from hungry to hangry. Because you're starving, you got no communication, and you about to pay for lunch with anger. What's wrong? Nothing. Now, only immaturity will make you go, oh, good. Because nothing doesn't mean nothing. It means something. But they won't tell you what it is. Now, we've never done this. I've heard stories of people. And communication becomes difficult. And so you're saying, so this morning you asked the question, Pastor, you mean that relationships, when you have a relationship, you're going to fight? Well, hopefully not physically, but against your flesh, because it's two different people trying to live as one, and even the best people have a struggle. 30 years of marriage, people in the room, lift your hand. Been married over 30 years. You ever been a time where it's been a struggle? Come on, be free, brother, be free. It's time. It's been time where 30, 40 years. You married 40 years? Ever been a time where it's been like, whew, that was a tough season. No, don't say anything. I'm just talking for myself. Don't agree with that. Keith, Debbie, ever been a time that you've been like, you've been in struggles, but you never called it quits? You've been there, why? Because you know that the grass isn't always greener on the other side. That the other side has been fertilized with manure. And look, this is a deal where we've got to learn to laugh at ourselves a little bit, because we take ourselves way too serious. Because we are imperfection demanding perfection from another person. And it's tough and then we start fighting, and it doesn't always start like, no, baby, hey, whatever you do, if it's what you weigh, I will change. Like, oh, okay. And then 10, 15 years down the road, you don't even know who you are anymore. Because you've just adapted along the way, and you've never really stood for the principles of what God's called you to. It becomes difficult. And you're trying to have unity, but you're two different people. I have this couple I spent a lot of time with through the years in their marriage, and they fight over some of the goofiest things. Color of carpet. Like they was fighting when they got married about what colors the wedding was going to be. Look, I was like, baby, you pick it. I'll wear whatever. I'm just thankful you said yes. I know this is a God thing. I'm not going to push my limits. You want me to shine silver? I'll shine it. It's fine. I'm good. What time I got to show up? You whatever you want. Oh, yeah, that's a good color. I don't even know what that color is. I don't even know. Just keep it to the basic 8, baby. But never mind. I start thinking about through the things of what we usually fight about the most, or we agree to disagree about. And fighting is something that comes naturally in a relationship because you do two different people. Then you got difference of opinions. You go, we never fight. We just see the same on everything. There is something that then have kids. Like, oh, you cannot get onto them like that. They just need time out. Oh, you done lost your rabbit mind. Think that gets more than time out, I can promise you. Like, no, we may crush their spirit. Well, somebody should have told my daddy that. And you have this disagreement. Well, that's just not the way we're going to treat. Well, we didn't talk about that before we got married, now did we? So it's just kind of this idea where you've got difference. You've got to learn how to come together. Ephesians chapter 5 talks about when you hear the reference of wives submit to your husbands, every redneck in Alabama is like, oh, that's good preaching right there. Whew, I just felt the spirit in that. Stay there a minute. Submit. But not understanding the reason that she would ever submit to your leadership is because you're submitted to the one leadership of Jesus Christ, and you have made your priority washing her in the water of the Word. Then do you know that a wife who's being washed in the water of the Word has no problem serving a man who's not selfish? But we're not talking about that this week. I'm just making a point. It's one of those things that you say, well, look, I've been married before, I've gone through this, I've walked through this. Look, we're not living in the past, we're dealing with the now. We're dealing with where we are right now. And from this day forward, making a decision that this is how we do it. We learn how to, in disagreement, we learn how to fight fair. See, James chapter 1, verse 19, 20, NIV says it this way. He says, my dear brothers. Now, we know that it's not being gender specific, though he says brothers there. He says, my dear peoples. My dear brothers, take note of this. That means pay attention. Everyone should be, underline it with it, whatever you have, highlight it in your electronic device, or if you're in the Word, underline it. Like I write in the Bible, you better write in it and make a note, because this is going to help you. Be quick to listen. Underline again. Slow to speak. Underline it. And slow to become angry. Double underline. For man's anger, see, you ladies are like, whoo, I thought he was going to talk to me for a minute. But he said man's anger. Now, you're like, well, my husband, he's more loud than me, but you know that your anger doesn't produce the righteousness of God in your relationship. For man's anger does not bring about the righteous life that God desires. How many of you had a big old angry fight and God was honored in it? You just, you said things you didn't mean, or maybe you meant them at the moment, but you know what that's going to mean for the next year of your life. And you're like, whew, that felt good at the moment, but now I'm in prison because I couldn't shut up. And you actually misheard them. And now you're fighting over what wasn't even an issue, but now it's an issue because you held a record from 10 years ago. Because you're a record keeper. See, you're a pot, but they're a stirrer. They react to everything immediately, but you've just been dealing with it for a while. Then all of a sudden, you've had all you can stand, and you can't stand it anymore. And you do the inevitable. And you open up this mouth, and like a flock of doves, things begin to fly. And then you start playing the idiot contest. And you ain't going to lose. Because then you get to go and you're like, and since I'm there, I'm going to say this too. And you get to go and you're like, now I feel really good. I'm going to get free all the way. I'm going to say, oh, remember what? I should have never said yes to the... You're like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said that. But I can't quit because now my emotions are involved. Why? Because there's usually pain that we don't know how to process, and we have to learn how to fight fair. See, it's for this reason the Word says we leave our father and mother and be united to his wife. They become one flesh. See, I married into April's family, but April and I became our own family. She married into my family, but we became our own unit. And I don't call my mom and dad and ask for permission for what I'm going to do in my marriage. And she doesn't call her mom and dad and ask for permission about what we're going to do because we left them and became one. And sometimes mom and dad may not have it all together. Sometimes they may, but the majority of the time they do not. I don't need to take lessons and cues from them whenever God's given me the Word to learn how to deal with it. That for as much as I love April, that we've spent over 20 years of our life together. We have spent more of our life together than we have separate, that we've been alive. But the biggest way for me to fail April is to put all my hopes and dreams in her. Because if she would ever let me down, my focus is in the wrong place. There's something beautiful about knowing that God's gift to me may be her, but at the same time, it was God who gave it. And so I have to keep perspective that is right. And whenever she does something to frustrate me, which may not be that much, baby, I'm just saying. Maybe you don't. Maybe I do more to frustrate you. Yeah? No, babe, I'd rather you plead the fifth right there. Okay? You're not supposed to agree with me so easily. We'll talk about that after church. No, there's part of a deal where we're able to say, look, when we disagree, we have to learn how to fight. See, Psalms 133, verse 1 and verse 3 says, how good and pleasant is it when we live together in unity. Unity is the goal of marriage. Does it mean you're going to agree on everything? No. But you're going to come to a solution. Does it mean you're not going to walk through problems? No. But it means you're going to be able to solve the problem. Most of the time, we're fighting the wrong enemy. We will hold our spouse as victim and prisoner over a way that we were treated in our past. Does that make sense? There's an old country song that Reba McEntire sang, and I grew up, I was country when country wasn't cool. So I didn't grow up in church, so country music's all I listened to. So whenever I was dating somebody and I broke up with them and we didn't have cell phones but just pagers, do you know what would always happen? I'd have 104, which is K104 in the town that I'm from, and I would be heading back to my house across town, and George Strait would come on and say, but if I know me, I'll turn this car around. I won't get halfway across town, and I'll be sorry. I'll stop and call, and you'll say you're sorry too. And you're like, man, I shouldn't have done that. And you go, country music isn't always right. But Reba did say this one thing that sounds kind of cool. And it says that the hurt in your eyes I never put you through. I think Trisha Yearwood sang a song similar to it, because when you don't know the word, you kind of let the philosophy of your life come from what you input into it. And I've learned that there are a lot of times in our marriage that we hold people hostage for something someone else did to us. And that's not right. And sometimes you're having to live in a prison that you didn't build. And as people, we don't do well with that. So we have to learn how to fight fair. And a lot of times we're fighting the wrong enemy. We understood that our battle isn't against flesh and blood, but it's against powers and principalities. So what do you got to do? You got to say, I rebuke you, devil. Like, no, I'm not talking to you, baby. I'm talking to the devil. You're not the devil. That's not what I meant. You learn that you may be driven by the wrong motives. That you may want things that aren't godly. And you possibly could be using the wrong tactics, like, if I buy you this, can I have my way? That gets expensive. You'd be like, Pastor, I'm glad you've spotted out everything wrong in my marriage already, since you're a know-it-all. No, I'm not a know-it-all. I am one. I am one married individual, and I know the enemy would love nothing more than destroy my marriage. He would love nothing more than destroy me. There is so many things that God's had to do in me through this process, and still so many things that he has to do in me going forward. Celebrated 18 years of marriage this November the 28th, and in 18 years, if I went back and listed everything that we've been through, there are a lot of times that we would celebrate together, and there are times where I have been unlovable. There are times that I have said things. In our marriage, I have never ever laid a hand on my wife. But I communicate for a living. And it's my gift, but it's not hers. And it becomes difficult because what will happen is in a disagreement is I win the argument, but I lose the battle. You ever been in a relationship like that? Or are you in a relationship like that where it seems like no matter what? See, I'm not a details person, but I can keep a record. I have a great memory. My wife does not have a great memory. Like, she'll think she does. She'll be like, I know that this is true. I remember that this happened. I'm like, baby, that was, okay, you're about 3 years off right there. And that was not, she's like, well, you know what I mean. I'm like, no, you meant what you said. Okay, no. All right, I can see this isn't going good. You want to go to McDonald's, get a milkshake? Because I would. And I've learned that if I make her laugh, well, what happens is I try to make her laugh, even when there should be some communication that happens. And so the first thing that we have to do, if we're going to fight fair, number one, we got to listen carefully. And you're like, I thought you were going to tell me something I needed. You lost me when you said listen. I'm a bottom lines person. For as much as I like to talk, I'm still a bottom lines guy. If April comes to me and says, baby, you know what I'd like to do to the front porch? I'd like to, and I hear wah, 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 because I know she's been watching Fixer Upper, and things are going to change, and wah, 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 and I just need $2,300. I'm like, what? What do you want to do again? Because when I heard the money, I was like, then I wanted the details. But before then, I was just pretending like, wah, 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 I'm driving. This is like, okay, all right. What, $2,500? What? Tell me again what that's for. And I have to be careful because I will listen anticipating the bottom line like, will you just tell me what it's going to cost? Will you tell me what I need to do? Bottom line type. But the problem is listening. Being quick to listen means that you're not just sitting there waiting to respond, but you learn to hear the message behind what is being said. See, Proverbs 18 verse 2 says, fools have no interest in understanding. They only want to air their own opinions. Could we listen better? Oh, probably so. Number 2, guard your words. When he says slow to speak, Proverbs 21:23 says, watch your tongue and keep your mouth shut and you will stay out of trouble. Some of you need to write that down and remind yourself daily that some of the most spiritual things you can do in your life is keep your mouth shut. Guard your words. To say, well, I've never laid a hand on my spouse, but you are a black belt with your tongue and you are crippling them. If I were to give April a microphone today, I think at times that it's been... Now look, you could be a part of a church where your preacher's never going to be honest and stand up here and act like he's pontificating to you something that he's got down perfect or that she has down perfect. But the point of it is that we're real people looking for an authentic relationship with Jesus Christ. Now, there are times where I will store things up, and then when I've had enough, I will begin to just unload, and I will say words that are not fair. And sometimes I'll mumble them under my breath because my wife has a hard time hearing. She'll be like, what'd you say? I'm like, I didn't say nothing. You ever talk to me like that again? She's like, what'd you say? I said, I love you. In Arkansas, we got pretty rivers. We should go fishing sometime. There's that. But we guard our words going, hey, sometimes the best thing that you can do is shut up. Very early on in our marriage, I remember even trying to lead our marriage in the direction of Christ, and we were new converts. I remember her blowing up on me one day about going back to church. She was like, well, I'm glad of what Jesus is doing. We don't have to go to church every time the doors are open. And she said it in front of some friends, and it made me mad. Because I was on a truck cell phone at work. I'd gotten off early, got called in after church, and there was revival going on. I wanted to go back. And I got in the truck, and I was ready to let her have it. And we started communicating intensely. And then all of a sudden, I thought, I got this great idea. Put her out of the truck. Now, I wasn't in ministry yet, so don't call the district. And say these words. And all of a sudden, one of the most powerful things in my life happened. It was called self-control. And the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, get a handle on it. And I just said, Jesus, get that. And guess what happened? I shut up, and we drove to church, and God moved in our lives and brought our marriage closer together. Some of the most spiritual things that we happen in our relationships isn't from what we say, it's from what we don't say. Don't let your words be out. You say, well, I said it, and I said I was sorry, and we're moving on. You cannot build a callus around the heart of your spouse by the words you say and expect them to forgive as easily as you want it. Well, I said I'm sorry. I'm sorry doesn't cut it whenever you do it every day. Because that's not being sorry. That's saying you should just learn to deal with me being out of control. That's real, isn't it? Number 3, manage your anger righteously. When he says slow to become angry. Who does this happen with the most? It happens with the people we love the most. Because we expect them to know better. Have you ever noticed at your house that if someone called you up last minute, you ever notice that your house can be a little bit messy until somebody stops by? And the quickest cleaning up that ever happens then? So I just used to just shock them. Like, hey, y'all come over about... Y'all call, say you come in. It's like, man, we speed clean the house. It's a big deal to. And I remember, like if we were to clean or something like that to happen, and if there was a custom where people track dirt, like if someone come in and they're from the church and they come in and they spilled something on the couch and you just got that couch and saved up for about 2 years to get it, and they spill Kool-Aid on it, and you're like, oh, no, it's no problem. On the inside, you like wept a little. It'll never, that's 2 years. I ain't got another 2 years saved up to replace what, peroxide's not going to work. And you got these things, and you go, oh, no, it's no problem. Jesus loves you. But you let your spouse do it. Or you let your kids do it. Oh, no. Here you go to the umpteenth degree of stupid. And you let it all hang out. Or there's this issue in your marriage and you're not handling your anger righteously, and where it says, if you're in anger, do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you're angry. Do not give the devil a foothold. But you've been sleeping cheek to cheek for several nights because you don't want to admit you're wrong. And so you move over there, you'll wake you up, and you got too much coverage. I'm going to steal them from you. What's wrong? Nothing. Nothing wrong with me. You're going to learn. I not talked to you for 3 months. It won't bother me. And you're winning, but you're losing. And slow to become angry is to say, hey, I'm not going to respond to that. Like, well, ain't you going to get mad? Like, I could. Well, if you're thinking something bad, you may as well do it. Who's the idiot that came up with that philosophy? You think it, you may as well say it. Nope, wrong. Dead wrong. There's a lot of things I've thought that if I'd have said, I'd have went to prison. Oh, that's too real, isn't it? Oh, you ain't ever been mad like that? That just because I don't want to have any secrets, but that ain't a secret. It's called self-control. You're not lying to them. You're just not letting your flesh drive what your spirit wants to draw together. Slow to become angry. I'm like, hey, we ain't going to fight like that. Like, I know I messed up and I know I'm an idiot, which is the majority of my marriage. If there's a problem, it's usually my fault. Even when I don't know it's my fault, somehow it comes back around to my fault. And I'm like, all right, the godly thing to do is to apologize. Guys, if you keep notes, this will help you in your marriage a long way. If you learn how to say I'm sorry and own it, it'll get you a lot further. There comes a time that if you're being held victim for something you really didn't do, you need to communicate and not just let anger happen, and anger makes you walk out. Listen to me. Write this down if you're keeping notes. In times of conflict, say, I will not fight for unity. Say, I will fight for unity, not personal victory. In times of conflict, I will not fight for unity. I will fight for unity, not personal victory. Man. Come on, let's try that again. In times of conflict, I will fight for unity, not personal victory. There's more important things in your marriage than you being right. It's about having the victory in unity. Look, I know when I missed it, and the last thing I want to do is be held victim for a period of time about what an idiot that I've been. Will we fight for unity, or will we fight for personal victory going, you're right, you deserve to be right? I can't imagine the prison that you can live in as a spouse knowing that your spouse is going to blow up all the time. There's nothing you can do to make them happy. It's not a you issue, it's a them issue. And they got to become the one God wants instead of you trying to make them the one God wants. We got to listen, we got to guard the way we speak, and we got to manage our anger righteously. Because I guarantee you, if I talked about who struggles with anger in here, it'd probably be 99.9% and then 0.1% of a liar. Why? Because this relationship is something so personal, so vested, and that immaturity can't understand. But it's when you got everything on the line that you feel like you've given so much and done so much, and you've taken for granted, you forgot to listen, and you don't guard what you say, and you're not managing your anger well. And it's time that you let the Holy Spirit work in your life. Stand with me today as we close.